Hello friend, welcome back. In this video, I want to discuss about that form validation. Like if you want to define some of the form validation, if you want to display it, how can do that work? In this video, I will show you that things with a live example. For doing this right now here, I don't need this. I just simply remove it. And now in our form, that means in our application, into the application, I have created one of the file as a forms file, right? So first of all, if you want to display that validation, you have to input some of the library that in Django, they have some of the building library as a validators. So you have to use it. So first of all, I want to input it on here. So I just simply define as a form and that then Django. Okay, form Django, the core. And into the form Django core, I want to import it. I want to import one of the library as a validators. Okay, I just simply define as a validators. And now in particular that area, so that means in our class, so here I want to define some of the variable as a name. And then with these forms, okay, with these forms, I want to define one of the type as a character field type. I just simply define as a character field type, and into the character field type with these validators. Okay, with these validators, I just simply define some of the validators, some of the maximum length. So I just simply define as a with these validators. With these validators, I want to define as a one of the type as a max length. Okay, max length validate. Okay, I just simply define as a max length validator, and here I define maximum length will be as a 10. So this type of one of the validation I want to define in particular that area. So now we have to visible it, right? So we have to visible it like in our view page, that means in our form HTML, go to our form HTML. So here I have defined that field. So now in our view, into the view here, I have defined this like that way, right? So it will be display our this field, and also I define our user form. Perfect. So now if you want to display it, like I have already defined our diction, into the diction, I have defined the text form, right? So into the text form, with this text form, I have passed it in our form HTML. So now with this, I want to display some of the validation message. Like after this, okay, after this here, I just simply define as a diction. So into the diction, I want to update some of the message. So I just simply define as update, and into this update area, I just simply define with our this text. Okay, I just simply define that this text form. So with this text form, I want to display whatever the message I get from our post, and I just take the things with this variable as a our new form. So in particular that area, I just simply defining it. Okay, then it will be display our all that arrow which is I have defined in our post area. So all that post data, it will be visible. So I just simply defining it in particular that area. So now if you click as a save all, I just click as a save all, and now I refresh it again. So maybe they have some the error. Let's check this out. It's now showing as a has no attribute as a maximum length validator. So that is actually our spelling mistake. Maybe again form, here you can see that's actually a spelling mistake. That will be as a validator. So I just simply define as a validator, validator. Okay, so that will be actually validator. Now click the save all. Yeah, now it's perfect. That is actually spelling mistake, friend. So now I just refresh it. Yeah, now you can see that is actually the input form. So into this input form here, I have defined some of the length. That means the maximum length will be as a 10, right? So now I want to define some of the character. Click as a submit. Yes, now you can see, friend, now it's showing some of the validation message as a ensure the value has at most 10 character, but it has now the 20 character. Okay, so here if you define this one, automatically it will be calculated that data. That means here I have defined some of the length validation. Now it's perfectly displayed. And also here you can define some of the minimum length validator. Okay, so here I want to define some of the minimum. So here I define that maximum. So now I want to define another one. I just simply define another one with the validator. So with the validators here, we have to define our another type. So our type as a minimum. That means the minimum length validator. Okay, I just simply define as a minimum length validator. So into the minimum length validator, I define as a 5 right now. Click as a save all. check out our process. Everything is perfect. Now I refresh it again, and now I define as a 3. Click on the submit. Now you can see it's now showing as a ensure the value at last 5 character. I just put that as a 3. Okay, so for the reasons you can see there is also getting this validation. That means the minimum length validation. And also here, if you want to display multiple error at a time, you can also defining it. Like here, right now I want to define another one. I take another variable as a number. Okay, number underscore field. Okay, I just name it as a number field. And for the number field, I define our form. So our forms, and then type will be as an integer field type. Okay, integer field. So I just simply define as the integer field type, and into the integer field type, I have defined same as a validator. So with these validators here, I have defined our validator. Into the validators, I have maximum. So I just simply define as a maximum. So if you display your integer value, then you have to define as a value, not the length. Okay. So for the reasons here, they have the another type as a maximum value validator. So I just simply define as a value. Okay, value validator. So here I define as a 10. Okay. So here I define as a maximum value validator as a 10, and also if you want to display your minimum type, then you can also defining it. So after this I simply define another one as a validator. So with these validators, I want to define our another type as a minimum value as a validator. Okay friend, so I hope you can well understand about it. So when you actually display some of the character field, then you have to define that as a maximum length validator. When you define as a integer field, then you have to define that as a maximum value validator. Okay, so that is actually a maximum value validator, and the minimum. So minimum I define as a 5. So now I just simply define as a 5 in particular that area. Perfect. So now I just click as a save all again. And now in our form HTML, into the form HTML, I have defined that name. So here as a field, right? So in particular view, into the view, I have defined that as a field. So now I define our variable. So here I define that variable name as a this one as a number field. So I just simply copy it. Now here I define as a number field. Okay, friend. And also into the HTML, I define as a number field. Now click as a save all. Now refresh it again. So now I define some of the validation on here, and also I define the validation as a 3. Click as a submit. Yeah, you can see it's now perfectly getting our 2 of this validation. So it's now perfectly getting our this maximum length validation, and also it's getting our maximum value validation. Perfect. Okay friend, I hope you can well understand about it. So here you can do this work. So that is actually our form validation for the integer maximum value validator, and for the character it will be as a maximum length validator. So for the reasons here, you can see it's now perfectly visible on here. And also here, if you want to define this type of validation for the 2 input field, like I want to create one of the input field as an email, and also another one for the verification email. So whatever the things you will put in particular that area, it will be matched with our another input field. Okay, so here if you want to display this type of validation, you can also do that work. Better I will show you. That is our phi, that means our form. So right now we don't need this, I just simply remove it. So now I want to define another one. Okay, I want to define another one. For this I want to do, first of all, I want to take one of the variable for our input field. I just name it as a user underscore email, and then we have to define our forms. Okay, I just simply define as a forms, and with these forms I want to define our type. Our type will be as email field type. I just simply define email field. Okay, I just simply define as email field, and also I want to take another one. It will be as user or verification email. So for the reasons I just simply define as a vmail, this type of one of the variable I want to take, and with this form. Okay, with this form I also define that will be as a email type, email field. So I just simply define as email field type. Perfect. And after that, here I want to define one of the function. So I just simply define as a div and the clean. clean, and here I define as a self. So into the self here I want to define one of the variable as a all underscore cleaned. Okay, clean data. And into this position I want to use one of the super function. So if you use that super function, I just simply define as super. So with this super function you actually get all that your data, that means all that your validated data, and take the things with this variable. Okay, so right now I just use that super and then our function as a clean. I just simply define as a clean, and then we have to define all that our variable as a user and then email. Into this email, as I told you, with this super function I get all that our data and take the things with this variable. So now with this variable I want to define our field name as a user underscore email. That is our one field, and also I have another one as a user underscore vmail, and then with our all clean data, into this all clean data I want to use our another field as a user underscore vmail. I just simply defining it. Okay, and now I want to put some of the condition. Here I define all the if condition. If our user underscore email, when it should be not match, with our user underscore vmail, when it should be not matched, then I want to rise some of the validations. I just simply define as a rise. Okay, I just simply define as a rise form. So into the form they have also, that means in our Django form library, into the Django form library they have also one of the another validation method, that is actually the validation error. I want to use it. Validation error. Okay, I just simply define as a validation error. And into the validation error here, when it should be not match, I want to show some of the message as a field. Okay, fields don't match. This type of one of the messages it will be display. Okay, so now we have to display it. So here also make that sure you adding that one. So that is actually our condition, if condition, and here you have to define that colon, and then our rise form and the validation, that means the validation error, and the field don't match, it should be display. So it should be check it, when it should be not match, then it should be display our this validation error. So that is actually our message. And also here we have to define that things in our view, and into the view here I have defined that conditions. Okay, when it should be not match, then it should be display our this message, and when it should be match, okay, when it should be matched, then I want to pass it in our form area, that means in our form HTML page area I want to pass it. So here if you want to pass it, that means here I don't need this right now, I just simply remove it, and in particular that position I define some of the text. So here it should be displayed as a field. Okay, fields match, this type of one of the message it should be display. Perfect. So that's all you have to do. So now let's check this out. I just click as a save all. Go here, refresh it again. They have some of the error, better to check it again first. And here you can see it's now showing as a rise form validation. They have unexpected spaces. Okay, so that is very much common one of the error. If you go our form, that means here after that rise, here some of the error actually is getting some of the spaces error. So just simply defining it, save all. Yeah, now it's perfect. So now I want to check it. Now click as a refresh. Yeah, there is an email to ID, so I just simply define aryan@gmail.com, and here I define the different another one. Click as a submit. Yes, now you can see friend, now this email and our verification email is not match. For the reasons it's now showing our this error as a field don't match. So that is the condition I have defined on here, right? When it should be not match with our verification email field, then it should be rise some of the form validation error, and it should be display this text as a field not match. The field don't match, so here it's now showing as a field don't match. And also I define another condition. In our view. into the view. When it should be matched, then it should be display our this field match, right? This message it should be display in our dictionary area. I have already updated it. I have passed that things on here. So now I want to do that, check this one. So now I define as Aryan. That means now I define our appropriate email address and the password. Click the submit. Yeah, now you can see they have no error. It's now showing as a field. It's because of all that is actually the field. So in our HTML, you can see I define as a number field. So I just simply define as a field now. Click the save all. Refresh it again. Aryan and then Aryan, submit. Yeah, perfect. Now you can see it's now showing as a field match. So I hope you can well understand about it. So when it should be matched, then it should be display our field match. So that is actually our field. Here I have defining it. So here I have defining as our field match. So it should be now display. And when it should be as a inappropriate, click as a submit. Then it should be show some of the validation as a field don't match. I hope you can well understand about it, friend. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.